I'm going to be ranking each race of woman by how attractive they are to men. And keep in mind, these aren't my personal rankings. These rankings are for how men in general see women of different races. But I will be giving my own opinions here and there when I feel like it. Okay? So let's go. Okay, so first off, let's talk about las spicy Latinas. I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry I did that voice. But anyways, now in my opinion, it doesn't even really make sense to lump all Latina women together as one race since, they aren't all the same race. Like, look at this woman. She's a Latina. But this woman is also a Latina. And so is this one. But since this tier list is all about how men in general view the different races of women, I am just going to lump them all together. So when we talk about Latina women here, just picture the first image that comes to your mind. I bet you're picturing a woman with tan or light brown skin, black or dark brown hair, brown eyes, and she's probably really short. Okay, so when it comes to Latina women in general, they have a pretty good reputation with men. In reality, Latinas are one of the fattest races on average, but a lot of them seem to carry their weight well, so they end up being what you would call thick instead of fat. And I don't know if that's actually scientifically accurate, but that's the reputation. And I don't care who you are, but we all know every man on the planet has at some time or another dreamed about having a thick Latina in his life. In reality, when I'm out and about in public, I see lots of Latina women that are just short, round, and dumpy, but even so, when I think about Latina women, my mind automatically pictures a slim waist, big butt, ample bosom, and a pretty face. So just because of their reputation, there's a lot of men that would consider Latinas to be in the top tier in terms of looks. And on top of that, Latinas have a reputation as being one of the few races of women that will actually cook good food for you. And who doesn't want that? And I also think some men are still under the delusion that Latina women tend to have more traditional values and they're more faithful and stuff like that. And that's definitely a major cope. It's not true, but I will factor that in anyway since that's what a lot of men think. So with all these things considered, I'm putting Latina women in the B tier. Now, I want you all to do a little exercise with me. I want you to close your eyes and imagine the most beautiful woman you can think of. And this can be a real woman, or it could just be some imaginary woman you've conjured up in your own mind, but just picture your ideal woman. Okay, now open your eyes. You just pictured a white woman, didn't you? Okay, so with that out of the way, now let's talk about God's perfect little angels. White women. Let's talk about white women. Now, we don't need to sit here and pontificate over this for hours on end because you and I both know if you take a survey of 1,000 random men consisting of men out of all different walks of life, income levels, cultural backgrounds, whatever, you take a survey with 1,000 random men and you ask them which race of woman is the most attractive, at least 924 of those men are going to say that white women are the most attractive. White women are the dominant beauty standard against which all other women evaluate themselves. Asian women get cosmetic surgery and bleach their skin to look more white. Latina women and black women dye their hair blonde or red, and just look at the lengths some men will go to try to get with white women. White women are seen as so attractive that black men will literally date the fattest, ugliest white woman in existence just because she's white, and that automatically makes her desirable. And obviously, I'm generalizing here, but come on. We've all seen some average to above average looking black dudes out there with some of the fattest, most disgusting white wenches Yakub ever produced. And any of you that say you haven't, that's probably just because you're a black man yourself and you saw those fat snow bunnies and thought they looked scrumptious. Now, on a more serious note, it is true that white women are the single group with the most power in society. They even have more power than white men. And the one and only reason for that is because men of all races all around the world want to sleep with them. And it really is that simple. And I think a big part of the reason white women are seen as so attractive is because they tend to have lighter colored hair, lighter eyes, and of course, paler skin, which are all things associated with youth and beauty. And I don't know if that's like an evolutionary psychological thing or if it's just like due to societal or cultural reasons. You know, it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation, but either way, white women are just the standard. And again, this is not necessarily my own personal ranking, but if we're talking about how most men in society view white women, they are easily, unequivocally in the S tier. Unless we're specifically talking about British women, then that's an F tier, because y'all's teeth are messed up, for real. Next up is Middle Eastern women. And just like with Latina women, it doesn't actually make much sense to lump all Middle Eastern women together in the same category, because there's probably going to be a big difference in, say, the average Egyptian woman versus the average Pakistani woman. But I don't have all day to sit here and rank each and every nationality, so yeah, deal with it. Now, it's hard for me to even decide how I would personally rank Middle Eastern women, because I've never actually seen one in person. I mean, there's a lot of them that live around where I live, but they're always hiding under masks and big sheets, so I don't know what they actually look like. But seriously, there are definitely some bomb Middle Eastern shouties out there, but I think they just don't get the recognition they deserve since literally so many of them go to great lengths to cover themselves up. But there are some examples of hot models and actresses out there of Middle Eastern descent, and that one Mia Khalifa video alone probably moved Middle Eastern women up by at least 2 notches in most men's mental tier lists. But when the average man pictures a Middle Eastern woman, he's probably not thinking of a hot chick. He's probably just picturing a burqa. C tier. In general, I think Indian women get a bad rap. They have a reputation for being hairy and stinky, and I mean, it's kind of the same for Middle Eastern women, but you know, for men like me that grew up in Western society and never lived anywhere else, it can be hard to even evaluate Indian women because the way they dress is just so foreign. You know, East Asian women are foreign too, but they pretty much dress the same as American or European women, but Indian women wear clothes that I don't even know what this thing is called. So, I'm sure if you put an Indian woman in a pair of yoga pants with a blouse or whatever, then they might be seen as more attractive to the average man. But honestly, see, in America anyway, if an average man sees an Indian girl in a crop top and spandex shorts, he'll probably just think she's Mexican or something. So, I'm sure we're all being a little bit unfair to all the Indian princesses out there, but hey, it is what it is. And they really have no right to complain, seeing as how poorly their male counterparts are treated by women. But one thing Indian women do have going for them, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but men don't usually think of Indian women as being fat. So that's a plus. So because of their stinky, hairy reputation and their foreign garb, Indian women rank in the D tier. Alright, black women. Now personally, I love black women, and since I just said that, nobody is allowed to get mad at me. Okay, alright, so we can all think of plenty of examples of attractive black women. You've got Beyonce 20 years ago, Rihanna 20 years ago, Megan Good 20 years ago, and the list goes on. But unfortunately, most men see these examples as outliers, and in a sense, they are, because black women statistically are the single most fattest demographic in the United States. And in general, fat is not seen as attractive. Now, there are definitely some black women that are thick in a good way, but the most known mainstream examples of thick black women, like Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj 20 years ago, everybody knows their bodies are fake, so they aren't really doing anything to help the average black woman's reputation. Now again, personally for me, black women are a resounding S tier, so you can't get mad at me for saying this, but for a lot of the same reasons that white women are seen as beautiful and feminine, black women are seen as ugly and masculine. You know, darker skin is just seen as a masculine trait, and it might be a mostly cultural thing, but one aspect of it is just that a darker complexion will make your musculature appear more defined. That's why you see professional bodybuilders basically wearing full body blackface on stage, because it helps them look more ripped and shredded. So that's a great thing for black men, but for women, it's really not doing them any favors. Unless we're talking about, for me personally, because again, I love a strong woman, especially a strong black woman. And while we're on the topic of strong women, whether or not it's true, black women have a reputation for being loud, rude, and boisterous. And again, now if we're talking about me personally, I love a woman that is not afraid to speak her mind. But a lot of men just can't handle a strong, independent woman that farts and yells and causes a scene as she's being escorted out of Walgreens. But seriously, a lot of you don't know this, and I think it's probably because of my accent, but I myself am an African American man, so I'm allowed to make these kind of jokes. And if you don't believe me, I'll refer you to my 23andMe results. So anyway, yeah, because of racism and society's unfair beauty standards, black women are in the F tier. I made sure to save this next one for the latter half of the video because I know some of you weirdos are just watching this to see what I have to say about your personal fetish. So obviously, you already know, it's time we talk about Asian women. And of course, we all know Asian women are seen as attractive, and I'm sure most of you already know about that old Bumble study that showed that out of all the races, Asian women received the most messages or whatever it was, so yeah, it's just a scientific fact. Asian girls are hot. And I mean, I do have to agree. When I'm hibernating in my goon cave, get it? Hibernating, like hibernating but with hub? Anyway, when I'm hibernating in my goon cave, Asian is one of my go-to categories. And I think there's two big reasons why so many of us rate Asian women so highly. First and foremost, and this doesn't apply to me, but some of y'all are just weeaboo, neckbeard, anime, loser, JRPG fanatics, and you think real-life Asian women are gonna be just like your favorite waifu. And there's also the fact that with Japanese and Korean media being so popular these days, a lot of Western men are watching all these hot K-pop girls and actresses all the time while not actually ever seeing any real Asian women in real life. So you end up with a very skewed sense of reality. And the other big reason why so many men think Asian women are God's gift to earth is because Asian women have the reputation of being submissive and having traditional values. And I don't even know why that is. I mean, it's a really old stereotype, probably dating back to medieval times if I had to guess. But some of you really think that the Filipina woman you've been talking to online is gonna just come over here and just suck you dry, say arigato, and then just go straight to the kitchen and cook you up some hot pot. But listen, I'm not the most experienced guy when it comes to the ways of the heart, But even I know that's not how any of this works. That's probably not even a woman you've been talking to, by the way, but whatever. I'm sure if you send her enough money, it'll all work out for you. But for real though, Asian women are just seen as probably the most feminine of all races, so that alone is going to put them near the top of the list. And I mean, Asian women have the lowest average BMI out of all the races, so that's a good thing too. Now, if you've been listening to everything I've been saying so far, you probably think I'm about to put Asian women in the S tier, but I'm not. Most men, especially on a global level, most men still prefer white women above all others. So, it's close, I will admit that. I will admit. But Asian women are in the A tier. Okay, so white women are S tier, and Asian women are A tier, but what happens when you mix the two? You can call them Wasians, Happas, Hafu, Half-Elf, Eurasian, or whatever, and I don't know what it is, but a lot of people seem to think that half-white, half-Asian women, and men for that matter, are guaranteed to have model-tier good looks no matter what. I think the reason might just be because until recently it's been a relatively rare combination in most places. So most people's reference point for half Asians consists of nothing but models, K-pop idols, and actresses. But personally, I don't believe that half Asian women are any more likely than regular white women or Asian women to be highly attractive. But the general population seems to think otherwise. But you know, if you really look into it and you do your damn research, you'll realize that the truth is that most half-Asian women either just look 100% Asian or they look Latina. But regardless of what I think, most men just salivate over the thought of a half-white, half-Asian sweetheart. So for that reason, I have no choice but to put them all the way up top in the S tier. So what do you get when you mix an S tier with an F tier? Well, let's talk about it. Half white, half black women are probably the single most common mixed race combination in the United States. So they don't benefit as much from the exoticness factor that half white, half Asian women have. However, they are still seen as kinda exotic, so they definitely get a boost from that. Now, what I'm about to say does not reflect my personal opinion, and in fact, I think it's just downright disgusting. But society, and again, not me, but society views half-white, half-black women very differently depending on which side they resemble more. So generally speaking, a mixed girl that takes more after her African side is probably going to be seen the same as any other black woman. But a mixed girl with a lighter complexion, especially if she has a lighter hair color or even straighter hair, she's going to be highly sought after by men of every race. I might be mistaken on this, but I believe a lighter-skinned mixed girl is what is colloquially referred to as a yellow bone. But I don't know, maybe that's wrong. That's probably not right. But what I do know is that when most men think about a half-white, half-black girl, what they picture in their head is an exotic-looking, caramel-colored shorty with mixed facial features. But since it could really go either way, honestly, I think it just averages out. Mixed women of the half-black, half-white variety go in the C tier. Now let's talk about perhaps the most exotic mix of all. Half-black, half-Asian women, or Blasians, as they're usually called. Now, just for the exoticness factor alone, the general perception of Blasian women is that they are pretty darn attractive. Now, in reality, I think most Blasian women probably just look black, or sometimes they might even look like they're half-white. And if I'm being totally honest, the combination is so rare that the one and only example of a Blasian woman I could think of off the top of my head is Jhené Aiko, but then I looked it up and she's not even really Blasian. So I don't even know what the hell Blasian women even look like. But it's like, it's just so exotic. I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure I want to fuck all of them. And I think the thought process I just went through is the same thought process most men are going to have when it comes to Blasian women. We don't know what they look like, and because we don't know, we're just going to assume that they are absolutely freaking beautiful. So I'm going to put Blasian women pretty high up there. B tier.